Gasp! Could it be? Xeon is making content again? Not quite. As I've stated before, I am taking this year off. I have plenty of content planned, but none of it is going to be coming out until the beginning of next year. This video is more of a special one-shot to celebrate my 1 year transiversary. And if you're wondering, what the fuck is a transiversary? It means, at least for me, the 1 year anniversary of when I started my HRT, as in my hormone replacement therapy. And I wanted to mark this special occasion by doing this video, kind of talking about my experiences, and what I've been up to this last year. Obviously, one of the things I have not been up to this year is voice training. Sorry, I still sound like shit. So before I jump into what this first year has been like, I kind of want to go through the backstory first. Specifically, like, what got me to this point. For those who are not aware, I am 36 years old. That means that I was 35 when I started transitioning. And if you're wondering, why did I wait so long to transition? The answer to that is, I didn't know that I was trans. And that might sound weird if you're cis, or you really only have like limited interaction with trans people, or if your knowledge of trans people really only comes from what you've seen on television or what you've skimmed off of the internet. But that's actually a far more common thing than you might think. Now, I know popular culture teaches most people that the trans experience is always, ever since I was a child, I always knew I was meant to be a little girl. And that just isn't accurate. I mean, it is a very valid experience that a lot of trans people do go through, but that's not the only narrative that exists. When I think back to my childhood, through my teen years, through my adulthood, there's plenty of signs of dysphoria, but I didn't understand that that's what that was. Like, I didn't really quite feel comfortable with myself, but you know, I was an awkward kid in general, so you know, it's probably just that. Oh, I don't have gender dysphoria, I just have like body dysmorphia. Body dysmorphia that takes the form of wishing my waists were smaller, my hips were larger, and that my features were softer. Like, I put every label onto myself and tried to justify my feelings towards my gender identity as anything but trans, because by this point, by the time I had hit adulthood, I was cemented in my idea of, I am a man, this is what I'm supposed to be, this is what I have accepted myself as, regardless of how wrong that might have felt. Ignore the fact that I didn't really understand most men on a social level. Ignore the fact that all of my most meaningful human connections in life have been with women. Ignoring the fact that I just didn't feel comfortable in my own body, in the way it looked, in how I was presenting myself. Clearly, these aren't signs of gender dysphoria. These are other things. It wasn't until about 2-ish years ago that I hit a breaking point where I just wanted to express myself, push outside of my gender conformity, and try new things. And it was when I did that that I just had my first full-blown dysphoric meltdown. I'm talking, I cried on and off for 2 fucking days trying to rationalize the feelings I was having. It was once that door was open, there was no shutting it. And I couldn't ignore, like, the conclusions I had come to at that point. And then that put me on the path to just starting my transition, which was a very long as fuck goddamn process. Now, whenever you're going to transition, there's a few different ways you can go about it. The first thing you have to do is get an endocrinologist, a doctor who specializes in hormones, to get you the goddamn medication that you need to suppress your dominant hormone and, you know, basically flip your estrogen and testosterone. How you go about that, though, can also vary, because some places have informed consent clinics where you literally just walk in, say, I'm trans, give me the titty pills, please, and they give you the titty pills. For me, it was not so simple. I didn't have an informed consent clinic where I live, because I live in the fucking Bible Belt and the goddamn boondocks. So I had to go find a therapist and go to the therapist enough times to where my therapist went, yep, you are certainly transgender, and I'm going to give you a piece of paperwork that you can bring to an endocrinologist and show them that you are certified transgender, and then they will give you the titty pills. And honestly, that portion could be absolutely fucking abysmal depending on what kind of fucking therapist you got. My therapist, even though she was transgender, was fucking abysmal. My girlfriend, who is also trans, her therapist was fucking abysmal. So, from my experiences, people who have to go to a therapist to get their therapist to like confirm them as trans tends to not go so well. So you have to be really careful about the therapist you're signing yourself up for, or just find a therapist who will confirm you as trans and then immediately fucking dump their ass, which is what I did. The moment I got my goddamn paperwork, fuck you bitch, I'm never coming back, I got the paperwork that I needed to actually get the medication that I want. From there, it was finding an endocrinologist, got one, okay. Visit them, they're like, okay, go get some blood work done. Okay, so I had to go get some blood work done. And then the blood work came back to her, and then I had another appointment, and they went over my blood work, and they're like, okay, this is what we're starting you off on. And there we go. Finally, I was starting HRT and beginning my transition. Now, something that is worth noting is that I was still closeted at this time. Like, a few friends and family knew that I was trans, but for the most part, I was still assuming my male identity this entire time. That is kind of uncommon from my experiences. A lot of people just come out as trans. I think this is more common with younger people, but they will come out as trans before they have started actually transitioning. Which is perfectly fine and valid. That is great if that is the route you are going. I did not have the security in myself to do that. It was like this weird, I needed to prove it to other people that I was genuinely trans to make myself feel more valid in the eyes of other people. So my plan was to just stay closeted, be on HRT for a few months, and then come out. My plan initially was to come out on New Year's, kind of a new year, new me kind of deal. Instead, I ended up coming out in like near Thanksgiving in November. Basically just because I got too antsy. I couldn't deal with just keeping it to myself. I was becoming more and more upset and stressed with not being out. Like, being closeted was literally causing me emotional distress at this point, and I just didn't want to stay closeted anymore. Specifically just for my own mental health at that point. So then I posted on social media, started showing up to work in women's clothing, got a new name tag, which honestly my job kind of gave me a little bit of shit about, because like, oh, well, the store manager isn't here to approve your new name, and I'm like, this is fucking bullshit. This is not how this fucking works. And it wasn't, because I went through like their little posted rules on how they're supposed to treat transgender employees. That was not part of it. But anyhow, came out at work, things were mostly smooth there. You know, obviously when you first come out, there's a lot of dead naming and misgendering that's going to happen, not maliciously, but just because people are still trying to like reprogram themselves and get it in their head that like, you are this gender now and this is your name now. And for the most part, it was fine. Like, people were getting the hang of it. I got pretty used to it. Like, I was honestly super goddamn uncomfortable for the longest time. Like, being gendered female and being called by my new name was a very kind of awkward experience for a while, because, like, I had been identifying as this other thing for so long that it didn't connect with me. And it's not that I wanted to be gendered male. In fact, when I did get gendered male, it hurt. It sucked. I didn't like it. When I got dead named, it sucked. I didn't like it. But also being called by this new name and also going by these new pronouns felt weird and bad as well, because like, I felt like I was being disingenuous. Like, yes, no, this is my new identity and this is what you're going to call me by and this is how things are going to work from here on out. Everyone just play along with me, please. Which I feel is like how like a lot of more turfy people kind of view transgenderism, like people who are just transphobic kind of view it as this performative thing that we're all goddamn doing and that we're asking you to play along with our fucking imaginations. And that's just simply not the case. But like, I was always fearful that that's what people were doing, like that's how people were perceiving it. It's just like, oh well, he wants to be called she now and wants to go by this name instead. And I was always very kind of just, like, that always kind of was in the back of my head. And that feeling, like, lasted for months. Like, I want to say about 3, maybe 4 months. I just kind of was having a lot of trouble fitting into my new out gender identity to other people. And it wasn't like it was like the first time me being out. When I went to Texas for KamehaCon 2, I was semi-out then. Like, I dressed in women's clothing the entire time. All of my Dragon Ball YouTuber buddies knew that I was trans at this point. A few of my friends really wanted to be supportive and were just, okay, you are Lily now. This is what we're going to call you. You are she, her. And it was honestly like a really nice validating experience. And that was long before I actually came out. But having your friends do that for you, like in a social situation, is very different from like having your coworkers do it for you when you know that they have to. Like, you know, it's in the store rules that you are not allowed to be shitty to your trans coworkers. But eventually I did get over that. I haven't really had too many bad experiences at work since coming out as trans. Like, I had like one manager who's just kind of a douchebag, and he got in trouble enough times where he just doesn't fucking talk to my ass now, which is fine by me because fuck him. And I had some fucking boomer cunt throw a pissy fit because I used the women's restroom, and the store manager basically just had to tell her, yo, she's allowed to use that goddamn restroom. Suck a dick. I think that woman might have actually fucking quit. I haven't seen her in weeks. But honestly, but at this point, I have fully kind of just embraced this, you know, my current identity, my new name, my new pronouns, and it feels right and comfortable and good. And yeah, like when I get called she, her by random strangers, it's always a very validating experience. When, you know, I don't get dead named for an entire day, it's a really good experience. And honestly, it's hit this point now to where when I do get misgendered or dead named, it's like a fucking gut punch. Like, I don't think people really understand, like, I don't think cis people really understand why misgendering and dead naming is such a big deal to us. Like, I'm not going to speak for every trans person on the planet, but I know for me personally, when I'm going through my day and I am like, yes, I am woman, I am she, her, this is me, and then I get called sir, it can just completely derail my day because it's this almost traumatic experience being thrust into my face. Like this thing that I'm trying to recover from, leave my past behind me, and then it just gets slammed right in my face. The same thing with being dead named. It happens occasionally at work, like people just kind of forget or whatever, and it can be a really bad experience that just, once again, derails my entire day. I have literally left work sobbing because, like, it was just such a trauma shock to have that happen. I know, like, it's kind of like almost a meme to have the whole, did you just assume my pronouns? Or to share videos of trans people getting really fucking angry because they've been misgendered. Like, that is not the typical trans response to that. And honestly, like, I can kind of understand people who do get that upset about it. But, like, for the majority of us, we just kind of die a little on the inside silently and then go somewhere private to fucking cry. That is how that typically goes. Like, maybe depending on who you are and how comfortable we are with you, we might say something, but yeah, we'll just let it roll off our backs because we don't want to upset the status quo. But like I said, those moments are few and far between. Like, my friends have all been really supportive. The handful who have not are no longer my friends anymore. My mother didn't want to get with the fucking program. I don't talk to her ass anymore. It's a lot easier than you might think. Like, I am just not putting up with anybody's toxic fucking bullshit anymore. But that's all the social stuff. Then there's the physical change. Like, what is the medication that I have been on doing to me, and what medications have I been on? Well, the medication specifically that I've been on has kind of varied and changed up a bit. I originally started off on estradiol, which is my estrogen. That has stayed the same, though my dosage of estrogen has gone up in the time that I have been on it. My testosterone blocker was, in the beginning, a pill called spironolactone. It's actually more of like a blood pressure medication, because like we don't really make medications for trans people. Like, here, this pill was designed specifically to block your testosterone. For you, trans woman, no, you have to usually get medications that have the side effect of, like, one of the effects is to suppress testosterone. And I was on Spiro for quite a long time. I want to say I was on it for 9 or so months, and I had to get the fuck off that shit. Because spironolactone has, like, a lot of really bad side effects to it. Honestly, for me personally, like, it was raising my anxiety through the roof. Like, I was constantly on edge, and I was already kind of an anxiety-ridden human being to begin with, so to be on this medication, a large dose of this medication actually, and just have it just ramp that up was a fucking nightmare. Almost ruined my fucking relationship. Thanks, Spiro. Don't fucking take Spiro if you're trans. Just gonna recommend that. And that's just like what I was dealing with. It has plenty of other bad side effects. It can stop, like, breast growth. It can, you know, fuck that up. It can cause sexual dysfunctions, which is another fucking issue it caused me. Fuck you, Spiro. But yeah, no, like, you can look up all the shit that's wrong with Spiro. I have now switched to a different testosterone blocker called bicalutamide, and that works a lot better. My anxiety is you know, alleviated. For a lack of better way of saying it, my dick works better. And overall, though, I just feel a lot better having now been off of Spiro. So if you are trans and you're on Spiro, I recommend getting off of it, switching to B-Call. If you are going to transition at some point, tell your doctor you don't want Spiro, go on B-Call. Like, literally everyone I know who has switched to B-Call has ended up better for it. And then there's also progesterone, which is another female hormone that kind of just helps in the development of just, like, tits and whatnot. So yeah, that was another one that I started taking about 6 or so months into my transition. So medically, what has changed about me? Well, my skin is softer. Like, it is a lot softer. I got tits now. This isn't all me. There's, like, some padding here, but underneath that padding is homegrown USDA approved genuine girl titty. Over time, it'll have, like, other effects like reducing body hair and stuff, which is already starting to happen, which I'm very appreciative of. It'll stop, like, new facial hair growth, though it doesn't do anything for the facial hair that I currently have. That had to be done with a fucking laser. Yeah, like, for those who remember me in the long, long ago days where I had my big lumberjack neckbeard bullshit going on, that's all gone now. I am very, very smooth to the touch. Like, I'm not just really well clean shaven. I have been going and having laser hair removal treatments done. Those are a little pricey, probably not as pricey as you're thinking. I use the site called Groupon to get me, like, a really good discount on it. Pretty much, like, if you're gonna get laser hair removal stuff done, just go to Groupon. They will have stuff for you. Like, if you're a trans woman and you're looking to, like, you know, get rid of your facial hair, definitely look in the Groupon. You will save a shit ton. For 6 sessions, it came out to just under $300. And that's 6 sessions doing my entire face. 5 sessions in, I'm almost completely hairless now, at least, you know, here. Okay, now another thing that I guess is probably worth mentioning that, like, I never really see these kind of, oh, how HRT has affected me videos. let's talk about sexual function. You know, I'm just gonna put a timestamp if you just don't want to hear about my sex life. So you can just go to this part in the video, and you can skip all the talk about me talking about my dick and how I use it. So yeah, HRT, you know, when you're switching your hormones around, is going to affect your genitals. It's just going to. So, you know, obviously, skin softer, that's kind of nice. But also, you know, your sperm count reduces to the point of just basically being sterile, which is also fine with me. Fuck having kids, especially in this economy. But another thing that also kind of happens is when you're kind of in an in-between stage of like pressing your testosterone down and trying to raise your estrogen, sexual function just kind of goes out the fucking window and is completely goddamn sporadic. It was honestly incredibly fucking frustrating for me. Like, the way your dick functions is not going to be the same, and I couldn't really grasp that, like really wrap my head around it, and it's actually kind of hard to describe, like, well, what do you mean your dick doesn't work the same way? Don't you just kind of like, you know, you touch it and you stimulate it and it just squirts everywhere, right? That's how that works, right? What happened? Well, like I said, you know, sperm count stuff gets, you know, reduced, so like, you know, you ain't gonna be blowing huge loads anymore. But on top of that, though, it's just sometimes you can't fucking get off. Like, it was so fucking difficult for a really long time. Like, sex was, I mean, you know, like, still pretty good, but I wasn't getting off. And it was kind of fucking miserable. And it was incredibly frustrating because I didn't understand why, and I didn't know what I needed to do different. Like, I was lucky to have partners who are incredibly patient and caring and considerate and wanting to help me figure this stuff out. But I was so kind of stuck in my ways that it was just like, no, I have a dick, I want it to work this way, why won't it work this way? And why can't I just get off? Why is this so fucking difficult? And that's really just not how you have to approach it. Like, you really just have to just kind of accept that, one, your body is going to function differently, and you kind of have to just experiment with your junk again, like it was the first time all over again, and kind of figure out what you like and what actually gets you off. Because I didn't do that. I was really stubborn, and I just had really bad sex for a good long while. Since getting off of Spiro, and since, you know, changing other things up, and just, you know, the mere fact that, like, my estrogen has now hit, like, a nice good plateau, and my testosterone is now down where it needs to be, and not this weird hodgepodgey intermingled bullshit that it was before. Things work so much better now. Also, you know, I have taken the time to try to figure some of these things out and the things that I actually like. Like I said, it's going to be frustrating, at least if you're like me, because unlike a lot of trans women, I don't have genital dysphoria. I liked having a dick. In fact, it was one of the big contributing factors to me not accepting that I was trans. I'm like, I can't be trans, I have a dick, I like having a dick, what's wrong with my dick? Like, I can't be trans then, huh? Well, that's obviously just not how that works. You know, there are plenty of trans women who just don't mind having dicks, or like having their dick. So yeah, no, I'm one of those. And I wanted my dick to work the way it had before, and it wasn't, and it was really frustrating. But, you know, like I said, you need to figure yourself out. Kind of like in the same way you had to figure out your goddamn gender identity and come to terms with that, you gotta figure your goddamn junk out again. Different people do work differently. I do have a couple of friends who started HRT and they didn't have that goddamn problem. That is the case, awesome. Like, some of them have had like weird spikes where their sex drive just goes through the fucking roof. Some of them tank like I did, because that was my biggest problem, was that my sex drive tanked. Like, on top of just my dick not wanting to cooperate the way that I wanted it to, my sex drive tanked horribly. And now after like a year, that pendulum is swung back in the other direction, and I'm a horny fucking teenager. Awesome. Like, I really want to strike a balance there, not just be one extreme or the other. hey, if you did the whole time jump thing, yeah, I'm not talking about my dick anymore, so it's this part of the video. What am I going to say for the rest of this video? Honestly, I guess that really is just everything. I guess the closing statements of this is just, yeah, no, like, my trans experience has been a bit of a bumpy road, but also probably a lot better than it could have been. Like I said, like, even though I live in the Bible Belt, I haven't had to deal with a whole lot of transphobia. My job has treated me mostly respectfully. My friends, at least the ones who I really care about, have all been really supportive and have been respectful of, my gender identity and my name and everything else. My mom is a cunt. I kicked her ass to the curb. And yeah, like, just the whole medical process of what HRT has been doing to me has been fairly smooth. If you are trans, I'm going to recommend a video from a man named Dr. Powers. He is the leading specialist in transgender healthcare, because transgender healthcare is actually really fucking outdated and it's from the goddamn 80s. So I'm going to link that video below. So if you are trans and you want to know about, like, how to transition, like, to get the best benefits from your transition, check out that video. Whether you're male or female, he goes over both. Even if you've already been transitioning and you feel like you're doing well enough, check out his video. Maybe you'll learn some new things and some things that have been holding your transition back. And as I mentioned before, like, my transition could have been a bit smoother. Like, I wish I hadn't have been on Spiro. I wish I'd been more patient and understanding with my own body to kind of figure myself out sexually and things like that. Honestly, like, I've been in a very unique position in that shortly into my transition and just before coming out, I made friends with 2 trans people who were really great and really supportive and really nice. And I ended up dating them. And we've been together for several months now. I live with them now. And, like, if I didn't have them in my life, I don't know how things would have panned out. Like, they have done so much for me on, like, just an emotional level, helping me understand things. Just my girlfriend constantly, like, giving me tips and tricks for, like, oh yeah, you want to get rid of body hair? Here's my epilator. Here's my old epilator I used to have. I'm like, oh, cool. Here's some makeup tips. How you do your brows and all this other stuff that just, I wouldn't have had the knowledge if it hadn't have been for her kind of guiding me. And of course, like I've mentioned before, the sexual aspect of it, like, her having gone through the transition herself, like, she knows what I'm going through. And my boyfriend was with her when she was going through that, so he's already been through what she experienced and what I'm currently experiencing. So, like, it was a lot of weight off of my shoulders. And yeah, I just, like having people that understood and knew, and not just, like, empathized, like, oh yeah, no, like I'm supportive of you, but people who are living the same experience that I was living and living it with me made a huge difference. I honestly just, like, I can't thank them enough. Like, there's like a good 95% chance they're gonna watch this. And I just want to say, Zach, V, like, what you two have done for me has been, I can't thank you enough. And I can't just express how much I love you two. And just everything that you've brought into my life. Okay, enough of that emotional bullshit. So yeah, that's been my transition. That is, what I've been up to this year. Hopefully, in January, I'm going to be dropping all kinds of content. Got a lot of stuff planned. Whether it'll be good or not, I'll leave that up to you guys to decide. Until next time, Xeon, out.